Kareem often said that when people talk about dominance, they forget what it felt like to actually stand next to Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt was unbelievable, man. And people don't really appreciate Wilt, because his teams didn't win, but as an athlete, he was incredible.
He wasn't just tall or strong. He was overwhelming in a way that made the game feel unfair. Night after night, Wilt forced teams to change their entire game plan before tip-off. Kareem admitted that even at his peak, you felt Wilt's presence before he touched the ball. The league wasn't built to contain a force like that. Bill Russell saw Wilt from a different angle, not just as a rival, but as the ultimate test of basketball intelligence. Russell believed Wilt was the most physically gifted player the game has ever seen. Without question, speed, strength, stamina, touch. Wilt had all of it in one body. What made him dangerous wasn't just the numbers, but the pressure he put on everyone else to be perfect. One mistake, and Wilt punished it instantly. Kareem reflected on how Wilt's dominance came during a time when the Lakers themselves were struggling to find identity. The team had talent, but chemistry was fragile, and expectations were crushing. Wilt arrived in Los Angeles carrying the weight of championships he was expected to deliver. Immediately, every loss felt magnified, every flaw blamed on him. Kareem understood that kind of pressure all too well. Russell often said that people misunderstand the Lakers' bad era around Wilt. They see the losses and forget the chaos behind the scenes. Coaching changes, ego clashes, and constant media noise created an unstable environment. Wilt was asked to be everything at once: scorer, defender, leader, savior. Russell believed no player, no matter how great, could thrive cleanly in that situation. Kareem acknowledged that Wilt's scoring numbers sometimes overshadowed his sacrifices. When coaches asked him to score less and pass more, he did it. When they needed defense, he gave it, but the criticism never stopped. Kareem said that kind of constant doubt can wear down even the strongest minds. Wilt carried it silently more often than people realize. Russell respected how Wilt evolved during that Lakers stretch. He stopped chasing records and focused on winning, even if it cost him individual glory. Russell saw the shift as proof of Wilt's basketball maturity. It wasn't about ego anymore, it was about legacy. That change, Russell believed, is what finally pushed Wilt closer to championships. Kareem spoke about how the Lakers' bad era shaped the way future big men were judged. Wilt was held to impossible standards, and anything less than a title was labeled failure. Kareem felt that burden later in his own career. He understood how one great player can become the symbol for an entire franchise's struggles. Wilt lived that reality first. Russell admitted that his rivalry with Wilt was built on mutual respect, not hatred. Every battle pushed both of them to think deeper, prepare harder, and play smarter. Russell believed that without Wilt, his own greatness wouldn't have been fully tested. Their clashes defined an era of basketball rooted in physicality and pride. It was war, but it was honorable. Kareem highlighted how Wilt's athleticism still feels unreal even today. He ran the floor like a guard, jumped like a sprinter, and battled like a heavyweight. Watching old film, Kareem said, feels like watching a player from the future trapped in the past. The rules didn't protect him, and the league didn't slow him down. He dominated anyway. Russell pointed out that the Lakers' struggles often masked how close they actually were to greatness. Many seasons came down to a few possessions, a few injuries, or one bad night. Wilt was blamed because he was the biggest star. Russell knew how unfair that narrative was. Basketball is never won by one man alone. Kareem reflected on how Wilt's legacy was judged harshly during his lifetime. People questioned his leadership, his heart, his will to win. Kareem believed those doubts ignored the reality of Wilt's circumstances. Leadership looks different when you're carrying a franchise under constant scrutiny. Wilt led in his own way, through consistency and presence. Russell admired Wilt's durability during that era. He played through pain that would sideline most players today. There was no load management, no luxury of rest. Every night was physical, bruising, and relentless. Wilt didn't complain, he showed up. Russell respected that more than any statistic. Kareem said the Lakers' bad era taught the league a hard lesson about balance. Talent alone isn't enough. Structure, trust, and patience matter just as much. Wilt's struggles weren't about ability, but environment. Kareem believed history eventually corrected that misunderstanding. Russell believed that if Wilt played in a more stable system earlier, his championship count would look very different. Not because Wilt lacked winning instincts, but because timing matters in sports. Greatness needs the right moment. Wilt eventually found it, but the road there was rough. Russell never blamed him for that. Kareem spoke about how younger generations often miss the emotional toll of that era. Wilt carried the expectations of a city, a franchise, and an entire league. Every failure was public, every success questioned. Kareem felt that pressure later, but Wilt bore it first. that deserves respect. Russell concluded that Wilt Chamberlain was not just dominant, but transformative. He forced rule changes, reshaped defensive schemes, and redefined what a center could be. Even in the Lakers' worst years, his impact was undeniable. The league bent around him. That is true dominance. Kareem agreed, saying that Wilt's story isn't about failures, it's about endurance. He survived criticism, pressure, and constant comparison. He adapted, sacrificed, and still left the game changed forever. The Lakers' bad era didn't diminish Wilt. It revealed how heavy greatness can be in the end. Both Kareem and Russell believed that Wilt Chamberlain stands alone, not because he was perfect, but because no one else carried so much weight for so long. His dominance wasn't just physical, it was psychological, historical, and unavoidable. And even in struggle, Wilt remained larger than the game itself. Kareem often emphasized that Wilt was playing chess while most of the league was still learning checkers. Defenses collapsed on him before he even crossed half court. Coaches built entire schemes around slowing him down, not stopping him. Kareem said that kind of attention changes how you see the game. Wilt wasn't just scoring points, he was bending reality. Russell reflected on how exhausting it was to guard Wilt mentally, not just physically. You couldn't relax for a second, even when Wilt didn't touch the ball. His movement dictated every defensive decision. Russell believed that pressure wore teams down over a full game. Wilt beat you long before the final buzzer. Kareem spoke about how the Lakers' bad era created a false narrative around Wilt's desire to win. People mistook frustration for selfishness. In reality, Wilt wanted structure and trust, not chaos. Kareem understood that because stars often get blamed when organizations fail. Wilt carried that burden alone. Russell pointed out that Wilt's numbers sometimes made teammates passive. When a player is that dominant, others hesitate, unsure of their role. That wasn't Wilt's fault, but it affected team rhythm. Russell believed leadership is often shaped by environment, not personality. The Lakers never fully solved that balance. Kareem admired how Wilt adjusted his game as his body aged. He became more patient, more defensive-minded, and more willing to let others shine. That evolution takes humility, especially for someone who once averaged numbers no one could imagine. Kareem saw that as true growth. Wilt didn't cling to the past. Russell recalled how every matchup with Wilt felt like a historical moment. You knew people would talk about it for years. That kind of pressure can either crush you or elevate you. Wilt accepted it every time. Russell respected that courage deeply. Kareem highlighted how the physical punishment Wilt endured would be illegal in today's game. No flagrant calls, no protection, no sympathy. Centers were allowed to fight for survival in the paint. Wilt still dominated. Kareem believed that context makes his achievements even more unbelievable. Russell said the Lakers' struggles taught the league that greatness needs patience. Wilt was expected to deliver instant perfection. When that didn't happen, criticism turned personal. Russell believed that history eventually softened those judgments. Time reveals truth better than headlines. Kareem reflected on how Wilt's presence inspired future generations of big men. Every dominant center after him carried some piece of Wilt's blueprint. Strength, agility, confidence, and ambition all traced back to him. Kareem admitted he learned from watching Wilt absorb pressure. That influence never faded. Russell concluded that Wilt Chamberlain's story is not defined by wins or losses alone. It's defined by impact. The Lakers' bad era didn't break him, it tested him. And through that test, Wilt proved something timeless, that dominance is about enduring the weight of greatness when everything around you is unstable.